one's Alicia or Alicia, and they're spelled, and I one year had the same.
Or Andrea and Andrea.
Yes. And I, on my seating chart.
Good afternoon. Today is Monday, January 31st, 2022. We are here for a school board workshop. The agenda for today is our superintendent search. We will be having the board panel interviews for the superintendent candidates. The first one will be Michael Ramirez, and then the second one will be Dr. Christopher Bernay. And we're just waiting for them to come and join us, and then we will begin the process. And I'll explain the process when they get here.
Can I say something?
Yes, please.
Does everybody agree how wonderful HR and staff have been?
Oh, yes.
Yes.
They've just
Terrific.
outstanding.
Yep.
Yes.
Thumbs up. Two thumbs up.
Candidates every need,
Yeah.
and really just been outstanding.
Yep.
So thank you to them, even though my back is to them.
No, I appreciate you saying that. Yes, they've been,
And the foundation and Marshall putting that thing together last night with the
On a dime.
East Lee County High School and the amazing students and the Chef Phillips, and it's just really been
Yep.
an outstanding experience.
Impressive.
yeah, no, everyone has really done a great job. And I must say also that without our two assistants, Ms. Roman and Ms. Thomas, they have been just really fabulous to make sure that we are on track on everything that we need to be on as well, and working with Ms. Ramirez as well, because she's the primary person that's been working with the HR. So I'm very thankful for all of them.
I did say that I thought that the fact that we were departing tomorrow and Wednesday was a huge benefit to them.
Yeah.
They wouldn't have, they'd have a week to recover.
us.
Yeah.
And actually, they're just finishing up, they were having lunch with the students. So the students have been asking them the hard questions of what the information that they would like to know, or what they anticipate or would wish for in a superintendent. And then also on the back of their card, they have a QR code that I've asked them to make sure that they scan in, so they are going to be scanning in and giving us their feedback. So we will also have the feedback from the students, and we have a student from every school representing.
Great.
So it was, they were very excited to participate, so that's probably what's taking them a minute longer, and that's okay. We'll wait and.
Yeah, and I wonder whether in this dead time, we as a board should take a position on who's going to win the Super Bowl.
Oh,
We will not.
my quarterback is out, so you know, I'll watch the
Right
game.
here. You should-
How about you?
Can you get through? I can get out.
Given the finish, I'd
questions
say
are
the Bengals. I want the Bengals to win, given the finish of their game.
Thank you.
And the fact that they're just irrelevant.
Yeah.
Ouch. Tell us how you
You
really
have the
feel
hot seat.
about it.
Welcome.
Hello.
Going in, are they not?
I hope you had a great lunch with the students.
It was phenomenal. It was phenomenal. So.
Okay, so again, thank you very much for being here. We now have Michael Ramirez before us, and we will begin with asking questions. And with that, at the end, you're going to have 3 to 5 minutes to answer the questions, and each board member will have the question to ask you. And then at the end, we will allow you to ask questions of us again and or comments. Okay? So we're going to get right into this. So the first question is, how would you determine the strengths, capabilities of your key administrative staff?
So thank you for the question, and thank you. It's an honor and a privilege to be here with you this afternoon. So I'm really excited to share. And when you talk about team, it's really, really important. You know, the team, senior leadership members, it's important to recognize you know, the strengths of the team as well as where there may be opportunities. So when I think about how I would assess that, coming into the district, really it'll be really important to a lot of one-on-one conversations and really reviewing and understanding what their strengths are, reviewing accomplishments and roles, as well as where are there opportunities for each, and really being able to learn. So my I like to say my superpower is relationships. So really being able to build our relationships with the team and to be able to really understand that. I have experiences in my current district in Denver, having come in and really had the opportunity to assess a team. I took over a team of about 20 individuals and really focused in on what were their strengths, where were their areas, because I really think when you talk about team, it's important that we have diversity of thought around how people, how members of the team. I don't need members of my team that think exactly like I do. I want to be pushed and I want to think, and I want to be challenged from that. But really seeing what their accomplishments are and really having a lot of conversation, I think it's going to be really important when I think about building the team, is to look to providing clear vision of roles, responsibilities, and expectations. What are the expectations for team members? And then ongoing conversation around assessing them. I think that those individual, whether it's one-on-one time on a regular basis to provide coaching early on, as I see and understand and working together to ultimately determine and have the best high-performing team, close senior leadership team that I can have. I think it's important to have the right people in the right seats doing the right work, and I'm excited to come into Lee County to learn of the team members, learn their strengths, where their opportunities, and how do we build a high-performing team to lead the school district.
Great, thank you. And I just want to say, we are listening, but if we're writing, we're not.
Got it.
We're not being disrespectful. I just wanted to clarify that, because sometimes it looks rude. We're going to begin with Ms. Fisher.
Yes, okay. So, Mr. Ramirez, share with us.
Okay, we will make sure that everyone is heard, but we cannot have people calling out from the audience. Thank you. Ms. Fisher, please.
Yes. Mr. Ramirez, please share with us your plan to help increase the English language proficiency and academic achievement of English language learners, and please provide some examples.
Sure. So the English language learners, understanding that it's a large population and looking at the population in the student body here in Lee County identifies, where 40% of the population identifies as Hispanic, a population that I identify with. And so I understand the challenges and, as a student, so my very experience as a student in public education is one that is near and dear, so I understand those pieces. And I think when you talk about addressing, those pieces, first and foremost, I think that I would push us to think about the mindset around, having an asset-based mindset around like what our students do have and bring, because I know we talk about a lot of times around deficiencies and things that students don't have. But I think it's important that we look at the things that our students do have and the skills, the incredible talents that our students bring to our classrooms each and every day. Also understanding that there are areas that need improvement. And so what I would look to do is really look at our data. I'm a data-driven leader to really understand the current state of where our students at. Understanding that over the last 2 years, through a pandemic, it's been quite challenging for all students, and especially the instructional piece and being able to lean in. When you look at the data, when you look at our FSA data, when you look at it, I mean, you can see where, there have been some decreases. So it's going to be really intentional that we individualize plans for our students to ensure that that's happening. And the accountability and the monitoring, not only at the school level, but at the district level. So I think it's going to be really important that we have reciprocal accountability. It doesn't just fall on schools, but it falls on all of us to do this work together around that. One of the key pieces, I've done significant work with the English language, with our ELL population and doing that in previous districts, really monitoring and looking at particularly graduation data, in a former district that I worked in, and really leaning into a graduation rate for English language learners that was 54%, not anything to celebrate, and there were significant challenges in reading. There are challenges that we know as English language learners come into our state, some that may have only been in this country 3-4 months and still are required to take an exam in English. So there are specific, significant challenges there. So working together to provide the right instruction, to provide the right supports. I know that we have sheltered classrooms in some of our schools to really be able to support it. I think the most important piece is to be able to provide the support to our students, make sure they have the right supports within, working with our academics division to ensure that, and monitor that data. Did that in a previous district with that type of graduation rate, intentional focus, as well as professional development. It's going to be really important that we look at development for our teachers, and that we have the right supports, and that our students, have those supports in our classrooms to be able to do that. And those are pieces that I put in place in a former district, and really that intentionality and that personalization was really important and key to moving that graduation rate from 54% up into the high 70s, close to 80%. And that's when I left the district 3 years ago. The work's still not done, and it's ongoing work to continue to do. But thank you.
Ready? Okay. What processes do you use to gather feedback on programs or initiatives? Can you give us a recent example of how you gathered feedback, for what purpose, and most importantly, what did you do? What did you do with the results? It's missing words, but sorry.
So thank you for that question, Ms. Giovanelli. So I'm a collaborative leader. So when you talk about the decision-making process, it's first and foremost ensuring that all voices are at the table to talk about whatever that particular program is, whatever that initiative is, and how we think about that. So I think it's really important to include all voices in that. So my approach to any piece is as a collaborative leader to bring the right stakeholders to the table, which is inclusive of staff, is inclusive of parents, community, and students. A most recent example, in my current district in Denver, we did not, as the pandemic happened, we did not offer, there was a challenge, we did not offer it online as a schooling option for all students, and it was something that was a need that was coming out, that as we surveyed parents and community, that was a need that was requested. We had a certain percent of our population, while we are fully back in school and proud of that and that work, there was a segment of our population that did not feel comfortable coming back to school and wanted a virtual option, one that we, particularly at the elementary level, that we did not offer. So that process looked like engaging not only staff around that, and really looking at what opportunities may exist to be able to offer that type of program, knowing that if we as a district did not offer that program, we were at the risk of potentially losing students. But more importantly, it was the right thing to do by students. So that process included like what potential opportunities to actually stand up an elementary version of a virtual school for those students, and provide that option for parents and community, because that was the feedback that we were receiving. And proud to say, a year in, we stood up that school last year, where actually this school year, but we're 6 months in, it's been very successful, and survey parents, and would like the will of the parents would be to continue that program moving forward. So we have about 400 plus students in a school district very similar to Lee County, 90,000 students that have that. And so that decision making was very much at the table to hear the need, to listen, and to be open-minded around. And there were mixed opinions on whether whether an online version would work for elementary students, knowing that nothing replaces a face-to-face instruction with a teacher in a classroom. But to meet that need, that collaborative process to gain that feedback and ultimately stand up an elementary virtual program, we call it Denver Remote Elementary, DRE.
Excellent, thank you. What is the one thing that you would protect, no matter the objections, when making budget reduction recommendations to the board, please?
Wow, that's a great question. I think when I think about like the most important thing to protect, I think what I would say is the the support services that are happening within our schools for our students. I think that when you look at, guidance counselors, I mean, all staff are important. When I look at the supports that students need in our schools, the pandemic has been a challenge for everyone at every level. And when I think about the priorities, this work is, when we talk about educating students, it's a heart issue before it's a mind issue, and making sure that our kids are that feel, loved and cared for within our schools. So those supports, those support personnel positions within, whether guidance, counselors, that be able to provide those supports in schools will be at the top of my list of priorities to ensure that, because we need to make sure that our students are okay. And, this pandemic for parents, for students, for teachers, for principals, for school board members has been quite the challenge, right? And just learning so much. So that would be right at the top of my list.
Great, thank you.
Ms. Gittens?
Good afternoon again. Okay. Under what circumstances would you consider eliminating an extracurricular or co-curricular program? And have you had to do this in the past? Please explain.
So if I haven't, is that the end of it? No, I'm joking. So it's just, I would say, under what circumstance, what I would say is, when faced with that type of decision, I want to first, say that, the extracurricular programs are the lifeline for our students in our schools, right? And knowing that, while not to insult, I'm a former social studies teacher, so I'm an educator, but to say that kids sometimes don't come to school for math or English, I know that might hurt some of our English teachers and things
We won't
but
tell
but they come for that extracurricular, whether it's academic or non-academic. It's that hook that brings our kids to school. So so I would say any decision to eliminate extracurricular in any school will be something that would be given significant thought to, and would only be done as an absolute last resort. The how that would happen, the how would be really using data, right? Whatever those extracurricular pieces are, using the data around like what type of enrollment, whether in an extracurricular program, whether academic or non-academic, what does that look like, and the impact, and then look at, in light of what would we do, right? So it's not just about eliminating it, but what supports would we give? Because if it's one student in a program, and we eliminate it, well, that student's impacted, right? And if we're about all students, and I am one who believes all students, so ensuring that we have those opportunities. So I would use data around whether it's enrollment in a particular program, understanding what those challenges and how to reduce that. And having done that, and I think that that's what I would share is, when I think about that, and I think about one program. It was an extracurricular academic that I had to eliminate as a principal, and it was really based on the staffing piece, and it pains me, as I think about, was we offered, when I was a high school principal, we took great pride in offering significant amount of languages, world languages. I think we offered about 9 or 10 at the high school, including American Sign Language. And American Sign Language was a program that I believe very strongly in, but it was a program that I had to eliminate because of the staffing piece. It wasn't necessarily on the budgetary piece, but because we couldn't find a certified teacher in order to carry the program forward. So what I did was I actually partnered with a school to ensure that, I stopped the entry-level programs in for students, so we didn't have kids coming through, but I made sure that we provide the opportunities for kids to finish out, ASL 2, 3, to meet their requirements potentially for graduation, for seal of biliteracy, and all those other opportunities that they would have that piece around that. But it was one that it pains me, for that. But that's a decision that I would take very, very seriously and really look at holistically.
Thank you.
This one?
Did you say this one's working?
Yeah, I think it
it
is.
Okay. have you engaged with the city and the community?
So as a new, great question, Ms. Vaughn. So I'm 3 years, I'm coming up on my 3-year anniversary in Denver. I work for Denver Public Schools. I'm a Florida kid, I'll just name that, 30-plus years living in this beautiful state, the Sunshine State. But in my transition to the city of Denver, I've had the opportunity front and center to engage on a number of fronts with community. First and foremost, I am a proud graduate of Leadership Denver class of 2021. So upon arriving in Denver, I immediately was able to get into the most recent leadership program that really educated me around connecting with city officials, had an opportunity to engage in the mayor, with the mayor's office in a number of pieces. And then as deputy superintendent, so that at the high level, my own personal development, and I was clear in my application to wanting to be in the program, I wanted to immerse myself into the community, into the city, learn the inner workings of the city. So I did that, so and really proud of that accomplishment. And we did it virtually. It's usually in person, and we did it, a year in a pandemic. It was really tough, and thankfully we had an opportunity the last couple of sessions to actually meet in person. It was an amazing experience that I'll carry with me. And then directly with the city, I've been a part of the mayor's task force, the city task force on youth violence. The city of Denver has experienced significant youth violence, gun violence, and I've worked directly with city officials, with the mayor's office around partnering together around opportunities to in a proactive place to be able to engage with organizations, nonprofits in that arena, and actually developed a program with the city that the city matched, a $100,000 match of micro grants that we actually provided for schools to offer extracurricular after-school programs. Ms. Gaines, you mentioned after school, but finding funding to do that, where schools were able to submit applications, and then we strategically were able to disperse resources where the district and the city, we matched, so we were able to offer $200,000 to schools to be able to provide resources around that. So, that was working with not only the city of Denver, Denver Police Department, just all of the other organizations. God bless you. All of the other organizations in Denver. So that's been kind of my active role in working with the city in that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
What are your guiding educational principles and beliefs as you lead a diverse district, such as the School District of Lee County? Could you reference specific researchers or writings that have guided those beliefs?
Sure. So I would say, guiding principles, a couple of ones, right? I understand the power of trust and just and how important trust is. And, you talk about writings of books. I referenced in my last interview, Stephen Covey's work around the power of trust and understanding that there is a cost associated with trust, and the higher the trust, the further and faster the work can happen. And when there's a lack of trust, the slower that work happens and the slower that process happens. So so that trust piece is really, I'm just one who's grounded there. And, that trust comes from having relationships, right? And so a grounding principle of values like relationships, I shared earlier, I believe that building relationships is my superpower. And, I'm not a superhero, but I do have a superpower. So, but building relationships, being able to, relationships matter. Like, this is a people business. Students, staff, teachers, community, parents, and everyone's passionate about, their particular perspective or their particular position on things. And I think that, but building those relationships in a place where people have, I believe, the desire to want to feel cared for, loved, listened to, seen and heard. And so the relationship piece is really a guiding principle around how I think about this work. And, and then my faith in my family, my faith in people, I believe in people. I believe in the best that people bring each and every day. They bring their best selves, right? And even when, if we're having a bad day, it's still, maybe not intentional and just working through that. So my faith in people, and then, the family piece, I'm just grounded in, when I think about, who I am. I'm a husband and a dad, before a superintendent, and then a superintendent, very closely there. But this conversation, this work starts at home, right? So when thinking about Lee County, it's a kitchen table conversation with my wife, and I bring 2 little girls. I bring a soon-to-be kindergarten's young lady in Lee schools, and also I have a 3-month-old. So I look good. I've been getting a little sleep, so I'll just let you know that. But that family piece. But then the guiding principle about the work family, right? I'll spend more time with folks from work, with the collective board, with our staff, sometimes in our own families. So that family piece is important, and that guiding principle, that belief and faith in people, but just that we are a family too. We're going to hold each other accountable. We're going to have honest conversation. We're going to be, transparent. And, when we make a mistake, we're going to say sorry. Like, we're going to just recognize, and we're going to do better. Because one of my mantras is, I want to be smarter today than I was yesterday. I want to be better today than yesterday. So every day I'm learning, and I'm a learner each and every day.
Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Ramirez, what do you see as the chain of command in a district this size? Do you anticipate making any changes in the organizational structure?
So that's kind of a loaded question, I guess. But I'll just say, so I see the chain of command as, there are 2 employees that the board has, myself and I know general counsel. So understanding, the chain of command around, my work is first and foremost to provide the leadership for this district in working with this governance team, so that is first and foremost around that. Having said that, I certainly will encourage, I'm a relationship builder, so I would encourage and anticipate the relationship piece, but understanding, when you mention the chain of command sounds very official and kind of cold, but just understanding what I would say are the protocols around just engagement and who's the right audience, who's the right audience to express concerns to, the board. And, so my vision as your superintendent would be to, as concerns come to our governance team board, would be directed to me, and then I would direct staff to work on, whatever the issues are, and then make sure we have a circular communication to close out whatever concerns are, so that, that communication piece is going to be, it would be really, really important to kind of to go do that. And so when you mentioned, the org chart, there's a lot of people listening, so I don't know what the right answer is. No, I'm joking. But I would say I want to look at the org chart and look at, I've seen and understand, how we currently exist, but I want to look at the efficiencies that we are and, where we are as a system, right? So I want to, my commitment, as I shared with the board, some of my initial thoughts around how I would enter the district, is to engage in conversations with divisions, with departments, to really understand, to better understand that piece, as well as staff, as well as schools. I want to hear from school leaders and teachers and support staff around how we are working together as an organization, and is the structure in the organization meeting the needs of us as a school district, as well as engaging with community, with parents, and around what does that look like. So my commitment is to do just that, whether that would be, engaging in conversations and possibly looking at external reviews by outside folks. I know that sometimes, just in my experiences, sometimes, people don't like to be uncomfortable, right? So we sometimes go with outside organizations, and then we hear what they have to say, and we're like, okay, we put that in the drawer, and we just kind of keep doing business. As we got to be action-oriented around what's working, what's not working, but just have open, honest conversation. And when you talk about efficiencies, so many times people think efficiencies equals layoffs, right? That doesn't, and I just have a different perspective. When you talk about the org chart, it's like, are the right people in the right seats doing the right work, right? So around that. So it might be a different seat. It may be different ways of doing things when we look at duplication of services. And so ultimately, in support of schools. Like, our work in central office and org chart is to support our schools, to support our leaders, our teachers, because, victory happens in our schools. It happens in our classrooms, classroom by classroom. So we got to make sure that we have the supports in our schools, that school leaders have that our teachers have that our support personnel have that, so we can do just that. And so that's the framing of how I would look at our organizational chart to ultimately make some decisions.
Thank you. In your judgment, what are the 3 most critical things a good principal does?
So, number one, takes care of the kids, our students. I mean, as far as that, so I would say first and foremost is student focus. Put students first in all of their decisions, and that's very obvious by looking at a school's budget. You tell me. I look at a school's budget, and I'll tell you where their priorities are in a school. So that student piece is really critical, as far as that. I would say too is, providing the instructional leadership within a school, whether it's the principal as the instruction leader and/or a support team and a leadership team that provides those structures for the direction of where and how the school is performing, along with the accountability for it, right? So it's more than just the structures. The data has to match up to what it is, and make sure that we're having these ongoing conversations around that. So that instructional leadership is really key. And then the third thing I would say is, ultimately ensuring the safety and security of our students each and every day. I mean, safety and security as superintendent of the school district is top priority. Our kids can't learn if they don't feel safe. So organizationally, that aligns to, not only the safety and security processes, the organizations of how things happen on a school campus are really, really critical to that, right? So, and you said 3, and I'll cheat and I'll go into overtime. 3+ is building relationships within the community that they serve, right? So it's, partnerships with parents. I want to see active PTAs or PTSOs, booster clubs, and all those pieces. That culture piece on campus, it speaks to that. But it starts with the students, right? And in my belief, when you have happy students on a campus, that usually trickles down to happy parents, because it's partnership, right? This work is partnership. Nobody does this work alone, and this is not all on our school leaders. This would be on support staff, administrative teams, leadership teams, department chairs, and collectively a whole school community.
15 minutes left. Thank you.
Thank you. How do you provide the oversight and/or lead others who have direct responsibilities in a district of this size? Specifically, how do you hold others accountable for delivering the mission of the district?
Sure. So what I would say is, with direct reports to me as a superintendent, ongoing weekly meetings individually with folks. So I currently have, in my current role, I have 7 instructional superintendents that supervise schools that directly reports to me, and they have a team of additional 7. I have a lead operational superintendent who reports to me. I have a assistant chief of schools that reports to me as well. So, and we meet bi-weekly, right, around that, and we're grounded, in what our priorities are, and ensuring that we are not only touching base, but we're sharing and learning around data and providing not only intentional points of contact, but also opportunities to engage, holistically in the work together. So first and foremost, like, that's the process around that, and then in addition to those formal meetings ongoing, right? So between staff meetings and really grounding us, in our why, keeping us focused on our core mission, and work that we're trying to accomplish. In my current district, it's clear around early literacy, on track to graduation, and those are the big two pillars, in addition to the health and safety and wellness of our students, right? So those three things are part of every single one of our conversations to keep us grounded. There is no question what we're working on. I mean, there is no question. It's clear where we're trying to go. And so there's intentional touch points, and that's why the accountability is just so critical and so important when we think about what that looks like, and how we can work together. So those pieces, and then we have step backs. We have quarterly step backs that we assess the progress of how we're doing towards those goals. Around that. So in early literacy, we monitor it. We have a data dashboard that we look at, and we kind of make sure that we're aligned in the thinking around that. And so as a district this size, I envision the same thing, aligned to our strategic plan, aligned to the goals that we have as that the governance team has as a board, and expectations of me, aligning those pieces, right? I have shared in a previous interview around just, thinking about the former coach that comes out of me, right? So it's like, what are the rules, what's the score, how much time is left, right? And having those guiding principles around that, making sure it's clear what the rules are, what we're trying to do, and making sure that my respective chiefs across all divisions know what those metrics are, and that we're reporting them back to the board, right? So it's like ongoing, because of transparency around it. It's not gonna be a surprise, we're working all year, and at the end of the year, oops, I thought we were gonna do it. No, it's gonna be ongoing. So quarterly, you could expect, here's an update on where we are, how we're doing, and having honest conversation. And when we're not hitting the mark, it's about having conversation and communicating. We're not hitting it, but here's the plan, right? Here's the adjustment we're gonna make. Here's what we're doing, because that accountability and transparency is critical in these ongoing conversations.
Okay, thank you. And may I ask, it's about 10 minutes left? Okay.
It'll have your question and then or he would have
We can say 2 minutes, that's okay.
opportunity for comments.
Well, I just wanted to check on that, because this question has actually 4 many little parts to it.
Okay.
And the overall question is, if we were to ask your direct reports or administrative team to describe your qualities or characteristics in 3 adjectives, what would they say? And then the same thing for teachers and staff, but I'll give you each one as you.
Sure. So my direct reports, some of which may be watching this, I would say, I'm people first. Would say I'm a collaborator, and they would say I'm transparent. That's what they would say. I think that when you think about, and the adjectives speak for themselves, but I mean those are things that
They would say about.
they would say.
Okay, and the second one is, how about teachers? 3 adjectives they would use.
They would say I'm a listener. They would say I'm proactive. And they would say I'm reflective.
Reflective. Okay. Thank you. The next one is classified staff. I'm not sure even myself what that means.
Like support personnel or
Yeah,
other
okay.
stuff. Yeah, I would, as deputy superintendent in the roles that I have and interacted with them, even in Denver and in my former role in Broward, I would say, I think they would say, in addition to what I've already said, because I got 3 more words, so we're up to 9 now. So but we're saying,
You got one more.
I would say, they would say that I'm humble.
Okay.
I think they would say that I care about others, and that I am approachable.
Awesome. Okay, so the very final one is, what are the 3 adjectives that board members would say about you?
They would say I'm amazing. No, they would say,
Hey, you've got the whole gamut, so.
sure. I think that they would say that I'm committed, that that I'm resilient, and that I'm students first.
Okay. And that is all. Well, thank you.
I was ready for 3 more, so.
You've used all the
I
adjectives
know, I'm
I
working
can
on
find.
You're testing me here. It's like
What can I say?
adjectives and-
Show me that thesaurus.
My English teachers would be proud. I'll just say that. So.
So we are at the, thank you, Ms. Gittens. So we're at the end here, Mr. Ramirez. So the final thing is if you had any more questions or a final, at this point, at the time that we have, if you have a final comment,
Sure.
please.
So I would just say, I want to say thank you. I want to say thank you to you, the board, to the Lee County community, parents, those that are here in the audience as well. Thank you for the opportunity to come. I just feel honored and blessed and privileged to just have the opportunity to be considered as your next superintendent. As I shared, you know, if you're wondering, the New York City thing you're hearing, I was born and raised in New York City. I can't help it, I'm sorry. I moved to South Florida. Now I'm a Florida kid, 30-plus years in South Florida, you know, in the state. I went to school in Central Florida at Southeastern College, which is now Southeastern University at Lakeland. So I understand the Sunshine State. You know, I understand all that is amazing about this state. And as I'm in Colorado, and I love Colorado, my wife and I and the girls and the opportunities there. And, you know, Florida's home. You know, Florida's home, and the opportunity to come back home and to join this amazing community would just be, you know, heaven sent, to be honest with you. And just thinking about just the opportunities here you know, last night they shared a little around just the 3 W's, and the way of life in Lee is something that's very, very attractive to me and to my girls, to be able to join a community that is so passionate about education, a business community, you know, parent community, just higher ed, just everyone, just collectively across this. So just really, you know, excited there. And, you know, so this opportunity to come home, you know, the why Lee, I mean, that's the why. This is the only place that I've actually applied to in superintendent searches. And, you know, just, I'm excited for that opportunity. The 40% of this district that is identified as Hispanic is something that is near and dear to me as someone who identifies as that. I understand and know the journey. You know, I believe that, like, my story is the story of many of our students and parents. I'm born and raised by 2 amazing Puerto Rican parents, you know, and who understood and valued the power of education. And, you know, the power of education to change lives is something that I know and believe it because it changed me. It changed my life. And just understand that I champion all students. I'm about all students. All means all. And, you know, just really ensuring that our kids and our students in our schools feel cared for. They walk into school where they're seen, they're heard, they're cared for, they're loved. That is important to me. That is who I am, creating and leading this district in a way, in a manner that is that. You know, I shared, you know, part of my John Maxwell's 4 L's, you know, love, listen, learn, and lead, right? I lead there, but make no mistake, right? Don't underestimate the kindness for weakness, you know, the ability to test and to make tough decisions and to lead this system. I am more than ready to do. I believe my leadership has been tested in 2 of the largest school districts in this country. And I believe, you know, the school district of Lee County is poised for even greater and even better, and I would be honored and privileged to come join this community as your next superintendent, and really create generations of students and families that love Lee schools. So thank you.
Thank you so very much. I really appreciate it. And I think that Ms. Heather is ready to take you out, and we will take a 5-minute break so we can get the next candidate up. Thank you so much, Mr. Ramirez. And if you could go right there, she'll take you to your next step. Okay, welcome back. We are now back for our second board panel interview with our superintendent candidate, Dr. Bernier, better known as Dr. B, if you cannot say his name. I know that he was a little bit delayed because of the students, shaking of the hands of the students, so well, welcome. The process that we will be going through is kind of what we did on Zoom. We will be asking questions. You have about 3 to 5 minutes to answer them, and we will just go around, and at the end, we will then ask you if you have any questions or comments. And thank you very much for being here. We're excited to have both of you here today. So, you ready?
I am.
Okay, thank you. So the first question is, how would you determine the strengths / capabilities of your key administrative staff?
Thank you very much for the question. And again, Dr. Christopher Bernier, Dr. B for the record. I want to take the opportunity just to quickly say how humbled and thankful I am for this opportunity, and thanks to the community who came out today. Really appreciate an opportunity to look this way. You don't get this opportunity very often to interact with all of you. I think the critical component to looking at staff is making some determinations about past practice. You have some amazing metrics set aside in your strategic plan regarding academic goals as well as some of the operational goals, and I've been doing a lot of research and studying how we're making progress with those. I think sometimes you develop stretch goals and other things with individuals, and there's reasons why they're not reaching the particular bar that they're reaching, but I think it's that conversation. I shared with all of you when you asked me a question like this about the strengths and positives about Lee County. It's about a listen, learn, and lead process for me. I have to talk to those people. I've seen some of the data. I've seen some of their work. I've seen some of their information. I've seen public comment that's provided to you at board meetings regarding things like operations, transportation, food service, et cetera. So I'm getting a feel for it, but until I sit across, like we got the chance to do today, I'm so thankful that we're not on Zoom and I can actually turn my head and see all of you. I'm really thankful for that opportunity, and that's what it's going to take. It's going to take me day one setting out a schedule that meets with all those chiefs. Provided I have the opportunity, there would be questions long before I transitioned, provided you permitted it, once contract was settled, where I would reach out to those individual chiefs with specific questions. The CFO I want to hear from, I want to hear from the operations chief, I want to know what's going in IT, I want to know what's going on in HR. And I'll have specific questions because so much of what you've been asking me about is related to that work. And one last quick follow-up is just simply that one of the most important things we can do, and now I can cross-pollinate all of you, I couldn't do that in your individual meetings, one of the things that we can talk about is holding people accountable. Everybody who works with me in Clark County and previously at Orange sets very specific SMART goals at the beginning of the year. They author them. We work on them together to finalize them, but that's part of their annual evaluation. And it's not a gotcha. We do it up front so that we know what they're working on and what they hope to accomplish. And then we check in throughout the year. I've got my midpoints coming up with all my direct reports now to go over what the progress is related to that. Direct report meetings continually. So those are just some of the ways that I know you've used that phrase with the community, you get what you inspect. I believe in that. You can have all the expectations in the world. Unless you sit down with somebody, really talk about what they're doing and look at the measurable data associated with those goals, you really don't know how they're progressing. So I'd like to see where they are, where they'd like to go, and that will give me the beginnings of an understanding of their effectiveness and the beginnings of sometimes great conversations, crucial conversations other people call them, and some people call them difficult ones as well. So I think that would be the entrance strategy.
Thank you. And I should have mentioned this earlier. Of course, we're asking you questions, so if we're not looking at you, we're writing down little notes. We're not ignoring you, we are hearing you. So
I always tell people, watch the top of my head. It means I'm really listening to you.
Okay, perfect. Ms. Fisher?
Okay, Dr. Bernier, share with us your plan to help increase the English language proficiency and academic achievement of English language learners. Please provide some examples.
I've had that experience in a number of different school buildings. You are a minority-majority school district. We have a number of students who come to us with a category of ELL. I'm not a big fan of categories because sometimes I think it pigeonholes students and prevents people from seeing how much they can achieve. I'll use a quick example. I had a conversation with young people that I've been mentoring in Las Vegas, and they have shut off certain opportunities based upon some of the labels they have. And it's really important that we understand that you're ELL because you came potentially from a different country and that you have another language, or in our worst case scenario, which I've said, where some of you come with no language. And that's the most difficult. To work with a newcomer who's not fluent in their own language really is the toughest part of moving that needle regarding proficiency and student achievement. I think you do a number of different things. We set up, based upon the ESOL guidelines and the ELL guidelines within the state, we make sure our teachers are trained in the appropriate methods. I rely on the ELL experts within the district, and I work with national and other organizations that understand how we go about working with those young people. And we go ahead and we structure a manner and means by which we educate them in their native language and English language until such time as we can transition them. If the state of Florida has not changed much, we really have about a 3-year period of time to make that transition. I don't know that that's always a wise deadline, but it is the reality of our state law and what's expected of us. But I think it can be done, and I will tell you that the aspect of doing that really came home to me when I was at Odyssey Middle School. When I was at Odyssey Middle School, I left with an A grade and 99% of AYP. I missed it by 2 ELL students. I don't know who they are, and I would never want to call them out because it wasn't any 2. It was just, if we had improved with 2 others, we would have had 100%. We did that through something called an individual professional development plan, an IPI-DIPI. Everybody loves acronyms. But that individual professional development plan set out an academic goal, and by that point we were focused, laser focused on our ELL students. Our teachers had been trained in ELL strategies and standards, and we began to target not just all of the kids, but specifically additional interventions for those young people to ensure that they were receiving comprehensible instruction in a pathway forward. And what we found at the very end, short of 2 students, we had completed all of the AYP process at that time and continued to maintain an A grade. And those teachers had a buy-in because that was their goal. That was their stretch goal. And the nice part of that is while they had a goal, the real meat of that plan was what did they need in professional development in order to be successful. You gather those plans in, and then you set up the process to ensure those teachers have all the tools and all the training and all the professional development they need to be successful. Lastly, I think the most important thing is family engagement with any student, and it's incredibly important that we engage those families upon arrival, and we get them resourced. We have a large Guatemalan population coming into Las Vegas right now. We are working with the Anti-Defamation League. We're working with the Catholic Charities. We're working with our local attorneys, some of them doing pro bono work in order to help those young people become documented so that they can move forward post-graduation into careers. Those are just some of my ideas, ma'am.
What processes do you use to gather feedback on programs or initiatives? Can you give us a recent example of how you gathered feedback, for what purpose, and for mostly, what did you do with the results?
Well, there are 2 types of feedback. One is formal and one is informal. I'll start with an informal one quickly, and I think you'll clearly understand from a board's point of view. I think I shared with all of you. But for the public's edification, I was given the responsibility of redistricting our trustees' election zones. We worked a facilitative leadership process over a number of community meetings where we went out into the community, worked with people who right at the very beginning of the meeting were all riled up. They figured out we had already made the decision, and they were mad as hornets. But you just smile and you continue to work the process and you let them know that the decision had not been made. We had 3 draft maps to start the process, but in hearing them and listening to them over the course of a number of community engagement meetings, we got to the point where our board directed us for some additional maps based upon the community input and based upon their input as to how to draw equitable lines that would meet the election requirements, but at the same time also please the community. Las Vegas is a challenge for that. The district hasn't necessarily earned all of the trust that you are lucky to have here within your county. And I measured that simply based on the number of public speakers we had that night. The same people who were very angry and adamant at the very first meeting were back at the podium, but with a very different response. Thank you for a very open and clear process. Thank you for listening to us. Thank you for taking our advice. And I can live with either map 4 or 5. I like 4, but I can live with 4 or 5. That's informal. Formally, I like to use something called project evaluation, and I think it's really important that when we set out on a major initiative like a reading curriculum or a new math adoption or anything that's large and impacting our school improvement plan, we think about what we're going to do to project evaluate it at the very end. So I always begin with the end in mind. You start with what the metrics are. How are we going to know we're going to be successful when we get it done with year number 1 of a project? And then we either do that internally with people who have the degrees necessary to do that type of work, or in some cases with grant-funded information, we go outside for project evaluation, and because it's written into a grant, to hire a project evaluator who's usually a university professor who is got a doctorate in statistics and other information. Most recently, I've used it for the Innovative 8 project in Clark County Schools. The Innovative 8 are 8 targeted middle schools that had very high vacancy rates at the beginning of the year and very large turnover. We have incentivized those educators who go to those buildings significantly to hire on and significantly to stay, and then additionally they receive potentially an additional reward based upon the performance of the students of the entire school. So they have a retention, they have a recruitment and a retention bonus every year, but they also have another opportunity to be awarded additional dollars for the improvement of the school. We use an outside evaluator for that process. We use UNLV, our local University of Nevada, Las Vegas. Slow down, Christopher. And what we've done is be able to bring measurable results to the board. We had vacancy rates in those school buildings above 20%. The past 2 years, they've been fully hired. The year previous, the first year, we had a problem with J1 visas. That's the only reason we couldn't get all of our employees who were coming in on J1s from foreign countries into the process. But we've also been able to have retention rates above 95%. Additionally, of the 8, 4 have been awarded. Of the 8, 4 have been awarded for the significant improvement of student achievement, because that's another piece of the metric, again, to measure. And our program evaluator is the one who helps us work with that. And I just finished an interesting writing assignment for all of you. I'll share one more. It was an program evaluator who gave this to us. We are currently working in those same schools with climate surveys that are done quarterly that really get at satisfaction of teachers, potential burnout, and retention. The teachers they know, we've been transparent with them what we're looking for, but the questions are not, do you feel good here? Do you think you're going to leave? Right? The questions are embedded, the details are embedded in the questions, and our program evaluator helped us design that survey. We issue it quarterly so that we're not opening the envelope at the end of the year and find out that one of the Innovative 8 has lost 20% of its teachers. We get kind of a pulse on the school building at the end of each quarter, and that way we can work with the principal to say, here's how your faculty is feeling right now. And how can we adjust? What help do you need in order to help support those people? So I believe in informal and formal opportunities. I think that you need to pay attention, listen to people, and listen to what they say and don't say, but I also have to get formal with certain things in order to bring to the board very clear objectives of what you've been trying to accomplish.
Great, thank you. What is the one thing you would protect, no matter the objections, when making budget reduction recommendations to the board?
I've talked to all of you about what I refer to as the three-legged stool. The three-legged stool, you imagine a stool with a student sitting on top of it, and each one of the legs is equal. I believe that those three legs are excellent programmatic offerings for the students, with the appropriate professional development for the teachers to institute or innovate and move forward with those curriculum initiatives with the support that they need to do them with fidelity. So we want to make sure we have the best programming for our kids, and we want to make sure that our teachers are fully prepared to do that with fidelity. That's one leg. The second leg is about the best compensation packages for our teachers, our support professionals, our administrators, and other individuals. It doesn't mean we're going to be the highest or best paid. It doesn't mean, it means we're going to do the very best with the dollars we're provided to ensure that we let our personnel know that they're important to us. You have to be sure that when a teacher closes their door, that they understand the vital aspect. They are the key contributor to student achievement. They are the greatest impact to it, followed by a school principal. Those are the critical components that you have to have. The last one is about reserves. They call me a financial conservative, I will accept it. Call me a coward, I'll accept that too. I just think it's important to be prepared for emergencies that you may or may not see coming. If the federal government hadn't stepped into COVID, we would be in a very interesting situation in all of our school districts across the nation. So when I come back to what would be the issue, it would be the programmatic offerings for the kids. I would do everything humanly possible to preserve what our students need, and that's math, science, social studies, athletics, fine arts. You have to round out the whole child. Talking to the community last night, it was very apparent that what we are doing is critical to this community. It's critical across the nation, but the people I met last night were very specific. Our young people come back to Lee County. Our young people need to graduate career ready to go into the workforce and work, or they need to go away to college and come back and raise their families here. We need to make sure they're prepared for mathematics, science, and other things, but we also have to make sure that they're good global citizens and they have appreciation for the arts, athletics, and they have a well-rounded health, not just an academic health, but a personal health, and not just in the medical side of blood pressure and staying active and those types of things, but in the social emotional side as well.
Thank you.
Okay, it is my turn. Good afternoon. Under the circumstances, would you consider eliminating an extracurricular, and you just kind of touched on this, or co-curricular program, and have you had to do this in the past? Please explain.
Eliminating, correct.
Eliminate an extracurricular or co-curricular.
As a building level principal and as a district administrator, let me start with building level principal. In Orange County Public Schools, I had a significant amount of autonomy over the budget. We were provided, like you provide a district resource allocation to your principals, we were provided district resource allocation within a very stratified school-based budgeting process by which I was able to make determinations related to everything from the number of science and social studies and math teachers, ESE teachers, ELL teachers, but also clearly in both the middle school and high school the number of electives and what I had. I had an interesting opportunity when I opened Odyssey Middle School with only about 800 students. Right? We drew off from the other schools. We were expected to grow. We were in an area like Gwinnett Gibbons area. We were in an area that was going to be high in growth. So we started small, and I was bringing students in and families in who were used to math, science, social studies, language arts, but they were also used to chorus, band, drama, fine arts, pottery, computers, because their enrollments were larger than mine. We worked through what we call a decision analysis process. It's one of the Trago tools, and it allows you to have a conversation at a school advisory council where we drew out what we wanted to offer and then prioritized what we were going to do in that first initial budget. And it provided us band, chorus, fine arts, and computers. There were still a lot of things left on the list. They wanted drama, they wanted a strings program, and my school advisory committee got up and started to leave, and I said, whoa, 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 we're not done yet. I need to know next year when I get more money, what's our next priority? Because I'm going to be able to maintain these. In Orange County during the 2006-2008 period of time as we went through the Great Recession, I was also involved in a district-wide decision to go out to our taxpayers for additional millage. We were very clear and concise in what we were looking to do, and it was a fund to preserve the arts and the electives in our school buildings. We had earned the respect of our taxpayers by that point with our half-penny sales, the first round of it, and they were clear that we were spending money, and the oversight committee, we called it COVE, our COVE committee made up of business members and construction experts, were excellent in explaining to the community that we'd been good public stewards of that tax dollar. We were able to pass that millage, and we were able to provide those additional dollars to our school district principals and ensure that the arts and the fine arts and our extracurricular activities stayed in place. So while I haven't necessarily faced the decision of removing a program, I have faced the decision of not having enough dollars to go all the way and created a solution by how to proceed. And then we did face a crisis through 06 through 08 through the recession, where we also headed off the ability to have to eliminate by getting creative and trusting our taxpayers and them trusting us to be able to move forward.
Thank you.
Thank you. How have you engaged with the city and community?
Wow. City, community, county. In Las Vegas, we're made up of a number of different municipalities. We have Clark County, which is kind of Lee County unincorporated. We have the city of Las Vegas, the city of North Las Vegas. We have the city of Henderson. All these municipalities contained within what we call Las Vegas. I have interacted with all those individuals. I'm lucky to be involved with our government relations organization, our government relations arm in Clark. So I work very, very closely with Brad Keating and the government relations team related to all of our electeds, not just locally, but also at the state and the federal level. So I've interacted with them clearly and consistently. They've helped us with support on particular bills. We had a fantastic legislative session last session, and it was through the help of those local individuals to move forward. In Orange, I had the luxury of working with after school, both before and after school programs, and the Citizens Commission for Children in Orlando was primarily responsible for helping the city and county schools have both before and after school programs from elementary through 8th grade. We partnered with the YMCA, we partnered with the Boys and Girls Club and the After School All-Stars, and we used the county government and city government, Teresa Jacobs, Mayor Buddy Dyer. We worked with them and their staffs to create a system by which every student, K to 8, had a safe atmosphere both before school and after school to stay, because the worst thing in the world is to send an elementary school child home. The second worst thing is to send a middle schooler home at 3, 4 o'clock in the afternoon and the parents aren't arriving till 6. So we really worked very hard. That's one example of how I've worked with both city and county governments to establish legislative platforms and move forward with legislative platforms in Clark, but also to work very specifically with the after-school programming and before-school programming in Orange County for the betterment of our students.
Thank you.
What are your guiding educational principles and beliefs as you lead a diverse district such as the School District of Lee County? Could you reference specific researchers or writings that have guided these beliefs?
So the question you're asking me is a struggle for me because I can usually name a book or I can name the author. I have trouble doing both. But I will tell you that Sir Giovanni regarding servant leadership is probably one of my greatest guiding beliefs. Tom Peters, who's written extensively about business and the work that businesses need to do, has been a strong, not only guide in terms of his work, but also at one point I had an ongoing online conversation when he was on the farm in Vermont. He was surprised one day at an Orlando event when a school principal was sitting in an audience for business people, and that led to a dialogue with him. And a lot of some of what you've repeated from me at the dais, get what you inspect, not what you expect. That's from Tom. The idea of working with Stephen Covey and beginning with the end in mind, having a clear thinking win-win. I think it's really important to all of us that we remind ourselves of the Covey principle that we don't talk about a lot, and that's sharpening the saw. I do an activity with everybody in a room. I probably can't do it if I tell you, but I do an activity with people in a room different times during the year, and hopefully not everyone will see this. But you ask people to close their eyes and develop a circle and put everybody in the circle that you need to take care of. your mom, your dad, the people at church, the students, the community that you serve, and you ask them to close their eyes, and you ask them, the last question you ask is, how many of you put you in the circle? Raise your hand. And usually in a group of 30 or 40, only one person or two raise their hand. You cannot take care of other people unless you take care of yourself. And that's an important adage to get into a culture of a school building, into our buildings, into our environment, into our district environment, so that we understand how to take care of people. Those are just some ideas that I have. I mean, I don't think I could keep continuing. You know, there's some really great work from, I was just going to say, the Circle of Safety, which comes from Leaders Eat Last. I have a little tiny book that I love from the Harvard Business Journal called Managing Up. It's old, but it's really effective, especially for a new superintendent, because people tend to want to bring you their issue. I'm all about an issue. What's the recommendation? What's the solution? How do we move forward? You know, it's not up to me to solve every problem of the district. It's up to us to work together to solve them together.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
So, Dr. Bernier, what do you see as the chain of command in a district this size? And do you anticipate making any changes in our organizational structure?
Chain of command is a difficult topic for me, and I shared with almost all of you in your office. Org charts drive me crazy, because then you start saying people work for you. My chain of command is about a team approach. People work with me. It's been successful everywhere I've been. It was extremely successful in the transition from a 30-year-plus career in Orlando, where I knew everyone to call. If you had any type of a problem as a board member or a parent or community member, I knew exactly who to pick up the phone and call to begin to work on the problem. When I went to Las Vegas, I knew no one. I knew the superintendent. And knowing the superintendent as a new transitioning superintendent isn't always a good thing in an organization. I love Jesus to death, and he's done an amazing job there. But we had to work through it. I had to earn the trust and respect. So when you think about chain of command, you earn that. And I've shared with you before, the trust is a bank account. I want to be clear. I want to clarify that, because I think I've been, with other individuals within my own organization, kind of misquoted. Trust as a bank account is me to you. It's me to this community that's seated. It's me to the principals. I have to make deposits with them long before I make any type of withdrawal. I put my trust on my sleeve to people. I give it away. Be careful not to injure it, because there may not be a way back across, if I'm being candid. It's very important if I loan out my trust, that you respect that. My job is to earn it from all of you and from the community, though. So I think my chain of command, it's clearly that you are the governing board. My job is to bring recommendations and policies to you to help work the system and create a system that works to the benefit of our children. We want to be a world-class school system. We want to make sure all of our children achieve their potential, if I'm quoting your strategic plan correctly. That's joint work. So that work that you want to accomplish regarding the strategic plan is a meld of our ideas moving forward, and then my work to draw staff to the process so that we can build programs and offerings, hold people accountable, and bring you the recommendations you need in order to move this district forward. I know we're facing interesting times in Lee County moving forward. I told all of you, my goal is the referendum that may come, may not come. My goal is to be doing such a great job with all of you that the voters want to keep us in the system we have. So in terms of that chain of command, yes, people answer to me. I will hold people accountable. I will do those things. Changes in the organization, I will say, look behind me, you won't see anybody. I don't have a specific person in mind right now to come in and take a job. You asked me an opening question where I said I have to learn, listen, and lead. I have to learn first. Would there be opportunities potentially to make some changes? Would there be opportunities to improve or add people to the process? Absolutely. But again, going back to being a financial conservative, I want to make sure those discussions are had with all of you, that you understand the why of what I'm thinking and the reasons why I would be thinking about making a change or bringing an additional person on board.
Thank you.
Thank you. In your judgment, what are the 3 most critical things a good principal does?
Climate and culture. I'm just writing down 3 critical things. I think principals set climate and culture in their building, and that's critically important to so much. It's incredibly important to parents. It's incredibly important to educators. We had some conversations both in my interview and here today that I believe when you think about teacher retention and teacher vacancies and staff vacancies, that begins with climate and culture. I can go out and recruit all the people that we can bring. We got an HR person in the back. We go out and get everybody and bring them here, but if we can't keep them because of the climate and environment in our schools or in our offices or in our district, we're gonna constantly fight that battle. So I think climate and culture, teachers hire on for 4 reasons. They hire on for environment, they hire on for culture, and they're slightly different from each other. Environment has to do more with the physical setting that they're in, the tools that they have. The culture is about how they interact with their fellow staff members, their children, discipline, their principal. But then the next 2 issues are salary and autonomy. Those are the 4 top reasons why teachers come to a school district. They're also the 4 top reasons why they leave. It's really interesting. The study came out of Ed Week a few years ago. So I think climate and culture is huge. I think another aspect that I always took on as a principal was the safety of the children in my care. There's nothing more paramount than 10 fingers and toes and 10 fingers and toes. And what I mean by that is if they come with that, they better go home with it. And if there's anything that's happened to a child, a parent needs to know long before they get home. You have a responsibility as an educator and as a principal and an assistant principal and a teacher, depending on who gets to make the phone call, to make sure a parent is duly informed of anything that's transpired so the first person telling them is not their child. Lastly, I think and I don't know that it's lastly, I think it's all kind of together, because climate, culture, but you asked me 3, so I had to put them in some type of order. And I think that's the accountability for student achievement. Next to teachers, principals are the next greatest impact to student achievement, and they need to be prepared and accountable to reach those benchmarks. They need to be prepared to show incremental positive change over a period of time with graduation rate, reading proficiencies, math proficiencies, science. And I know we've all slid back with COVID, the whole nation has. But now it's time to regroup. The new normal, what's the new normal going to look like? And the new normal begins with going back to saying we believe all of our children can achieve, and I think I shared with some of you, not in 10 years. And I want to tell a 2nd grade parent that by senior we'll have it right. We need to get moving. We need to get moving now, but I want to make principals and building leaders and teachers comfortable. I don't believe in fast growth. If you have fast growth, it's not sustainable. If you turn around a school without systems and the principal leaves, the school slides right back to where it was. So it's a process by which you make improvement, but I can't look a 2nd grade family in the eye and say, 10 years from now we'll have it right.
Thank you.
Okay, so how do you provide the oversight and/or lead others who have direct responsibilities in a district this size? Specifically, how do you hold others accountable for delivering the mission of the district?
I think it goes back to what I said earlier about SMART goals. I think the aspect of everybody owns a strategic plan, and sometimes strategic plans are wonderful ornaments on a shelf. In order to get that strategic plan out and functioning in our school buildings, we have to get alignment between the strategic plan and the school improvement plan, that the school advisory councils are a critical component with the principal in planning. So you have parents, community members, support professionals and teachers working with the principal to make some decisions about how we move forward. So I think you have to make improvement actionable through SMART goals. They have to be specific, they have to be measurable, they have to have metrics at the end. And I'm all about a stretch goal. I love stretch goals, but we also have to coach people to understand that even if we don't reach them, we're making incremental progress as we go. The one place we can't go is backwards. So in terms of working with direct reports, whether it be the chief of operations or the chief of transportation or the HR chief, there will be specific measurable goals that they develop that I work together with them to revise to make sure that they're aligned. But that work then gets passed, even in teaching and learning, it gets passed from me to the chief academic officer, the academic officer to the principal supervisors to their actual principals, and then in my case, it got actionalized, as I told you already, with that ippy-dippy thing. All right, we actionalized it right down to the classroom level with teachers setting goals specifically for the kids that they had in their classrooms. Clearly, though, I want to make sure you're aware, they had the data with which to do that and measure it. So we knew where our kids were, and we knew where we wanted them to be, and we had the data to inform us along the way.
Okay, and I am last, and then you'll be last, actually. If we were to ask you to, if we were to ask your direct reports or administrative team to describe your qualities or characteristics in 3 adjectives, what would they say? And it's a 4-part because the administrative team, the teachers, classified staff, and board members, and I can remind you as you go along. So first of all, if we were to ask your direct reports or administrative team 3 adjectives to describe you, what would it be?
It's interesting. I don't know that they'll be much different from the other. I'm wondering if I'm not answering the question correctly. I think people would tell you that I'm direct, that I'm honest, and that I'm fair when you talk to my direct reports.
And teachers?
Open, listener, supporter, and the 3 from the administrative team.
Classified staff?
Oh, supportive, understanding, and respectful. Those are the people who carry us. Our custodians, our bus drivers. I mean, I can't imagine being a building level principal and having to drive kids. I can't imagine being a building level principal, although I have served in a lunch line, having to create lunch. I can't imagine being a building level principal without my secretary, Phyllis, who was with me for 25 years, and then followed me to the district office. I just can't imagine what that would have been like. So I don't know how to create that into an adjective, but they are the salt of the earth.
And finally, board members.
Direct, honest, and I think they might add political. They know that I understand their situation. I want to define it. I think they understand I know their situation and their responsibility to their constituencies, and we work to make sure that we can balance district decisions so that the constituencies are informed and can be supportive of the direction we're headed in.
And that's it. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. So as we come to a closure here, again, we thank you, really appreciate you being here. And at this time, if you have the opportunity to have a, if you had any questions or a closing comment before they come to whisk you away.
I have been fully grilled today. I appreciate the opportunity. I've been involved in one other search like this, and I can't thank you enough for the individual time with each one of you. That was a most valuable part of this process for me because it gave me an opportunity. We turned it, we all had questions, but we turned it into a conversation. And this is great. I love answering questions, but it's the dialogue which is the rich part of the conversation. I do want you to know, and I've written some notes, so if I look at them, I hope that's okay. that this position represents an opportunity for me. It's a chance to continue my dedicated service to students. I've spent a lifetime working for the betterment of kids. It is something I believe in my heart and soul. And I want to work with these students, these families, and you as a board because we share common values and an aligned vision. We believe all students have an opportunity to succeed, and I believe in creating a world-class system. I think I've shared with all of you, that's a moving target. We're always going to be evaluating and driving at it. But I want you to know that I came to Lee and put my name into Lee because you have a strategic plan that puts children first. I talked to you about some of your board policies that allow school buildings to be financed long before you finance your district budgets. Lots of schools talk about putting kids first. Lots of systems talk about putting them first, but they don't have it written in policy, and they don't have it necessarily in their strategic plan. I think Lee County represents an amazing time for me because I've really worked and are better prepared to make this transition because of my move out of Florida to Las Vegas. Again, to move from an area where I knew everyone to come to a place where I knew no one. I think that's another thing my admin team would say about me as I dig in. I will drain Clark County school system, I will empty the Rolodex, and I will add all the Lee County information. I ran into someone in the hallway, my guide who used to work for Orange County Public Schools. I don't think I can come up with all their names anymore because I'm so deeply embedded where I am. I think this position, for me, is the best opportunity to make a meaningful impact in a collaborative fashion. Last night was incredible to meet the community support. I look forward to the receptions tonight again to meet the community support that's available to us that will change the trajectories of the students we serve. The position will allow me to help you and the school district continue to accomplish the things that we're on the right path for. But I look forward to an opportunity to provide additional enhancements and to continue to work, to continue to consistently use a continuous improvement model through collaboration to build that world-class school system. And finally, I'll end it with you and say this. I'm not looking for my next job. This is the job I want. I want to be superintendent in a place that has this type of leadership. It's the only other place I've applied is a place like this because I want to dig in. And while I'm not a native son of Fort Myers and Lee County, I am a Florida guy. I made my career here. And as soon as we came off 75 and we got into the greater Fort Myers area and yesterday traveling around, both Deborah and I got a sense of being home. And that's where I want to be. I want to be in a place that I can call my home, embed myself in a community, and work to the betterment of the students. I may not be a Lee County resident yet or a Lee County generational family, but you will see me dig in and you will see me work to earn this community's trust and respect. And I thank you again for the opportunity. Every one of these is a learning opportunity, and I've learned so much from all of you over the course of the last couple of days, and will continue to learn moving into the future. Thank you.
Thank you so very much. Appreciate it. And I know you'll be going somewhere else next, and they're
dragging me away.
They're here to take you away. Your day is not over yet.
No, it's not. But now it's earlier in Las Vegas. When I woke up at 4, I didn't realize that's 1 for me. So, and same for Michael. But we're going to stay alive. We're gonna keep drinking our caffeine and keep moving. Appreciate all of your time to the community. Thank you for attending.
Thank you.
Oh, he's going.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Ms. Muller.
You have the list. Oh, where did they go? I didn't bring mine.
Thank you.
And please,
The principals thing.
Do the principals thing, and then Ramirez is in written communication. They finish
All right, so what's next?
Okay.
What's next for us?
No, we are done.
Yes, the next on the,
section 5, yeah.
yeah,
What do you mean come back at 5?
community reception.
Okay, no, I got something else going on.
just so we can finish out the meeting.
Oh, guys, we haven't dismissed the meeting
We
yet.
haven't dismissed the meeting yet.
That's way too long.
We're just all-
So I just wanted to say, the next on the agenda was the we did have another candidate who had withdrawn, and I just want to read something real quick that they had written. And it said, Mr. Collins, at this time, I'm stepping away from the opportunity to pursue the superintendent's position in Lee County Schools. I am humbled to have been a part of this process and to be a finalist. I would like to thank the Lee County School Board and the search firm, Ray & Associates, and I wish them well in the remainder of the process. And also, he had stated that the withdrawing from the search was due to professional and personal reasons. So I just wanted to share that out. That's the reason why we did not have them. And we also have good of the order. So at this, and I'd like to thank Dr. Caldwell. Thank you for being here. I really appreciate that you're here with us. And tomorrow, they still have other things that they're doing today, and then tomorrow we'll have another conversation, and we'll go from there. But at this time, we do have good of the order, so I'm just going to go around real quick and see if there's anyone has anything to say or share. Ms. Fisher.
Well, I just want to say that I enjoyed the interviews and the process, and I have nothing further.
Thank you. Ms. Giovanelli.
I do. It's been a great experience for me because this is kind of like the first time, really. So I've enjoyed it as well. Can we have both of them? Sorry, I'll leave that there. Okay, thank you.
I just want to bring your attention to the email that I sent this morning regarding the conversation on tomorrow's agenda.
Thank you. And thank you for doing that. Ms. Gittens.
And I, too, enjoyed the process and speaking with everyone. Last night was a very special time as well for them to meet the community. And my thing is to the community, we are going to be discussing this tomorrow, so flood those boxes with comments, suggestions. You've seen and heard today our finalists, and so that when the decision is made, we have all aspects. We ask you to please weigh in. You only have this evening, so.
Thank you, Ms. Gittens. And our backs are towards you for the reason, so that way the superintendent's candidates can be forward-facing. Ms. Vaughn.
And that's because we listened.
We did listen. Yes, we did.
This is just for my edification. Is this going to be streamed like now? Is this going to be put?
It is streamed right now. It is being streamed.
Oh, it was live.
It was
I
live.
didn't realize that
So
it was.
you were on camera because you're not facing backwards, but yes.
No, but I didn't realize that it was live because.
The reason it was live because of the fact that neither one of the candidates could
They were
possibly be
involved.
watching because they're engaged in other things that they're doing.
Good. That's true. I wasn't thinking, and
Good question.
that gives an explanation to everybody else
Thank you.
out there. So for everybody who's watching, listening to this, get those emails in with your opinions, and keep in mind that we, as board members, we're still going to have the written communication, and we're going to get input from our students who had lunch with these two gentlemen. And also, I'm assuming the interviews, what are they called, experience-based interviews, we'll get input. So, keep in mind that there's more out there, and we do listen, so, and we do read. So get those emails in there ASAP, and that's it.
Thank you, Ms. Vaughn. Good points. Ms. Morgan.
And I would just second what's already been said. Each stage of this process, I have learned something about the candidate. It started out with an impression based on the resume, and then it became, and each step I have learned something different. So I really do appreciate the fact that we have gone through the process the way we have. And I realize it's been intensive and it's been tough for some in terms of scheduling and time commitment, but I think this has been a great process, and I'm really, really, really grateful to the board for engaging in it. So, thank you.
Thank you. And I have to agree as well. This is my first time as well, and it has been a great opportunity. And I have learned as well, as you said, Ms. Morgan, every time I look at a video or every time I read or see, I'm learning more and more. And we could not have done this without, our staff working together with Rain Associates and everything that they have done. So I just want to, again, give them kudos to that. And I'm looking forward to, as Ms. Vaughn and everyone else has stated, bring those emails in. We want to hear the students. I cannot wait to see what they have to say, because that's going to be just really great. And I hope they all did that, so I'm looking forward to that. And then
I just have one more thing, because I just noticed I had an email. I had sent all of you the information about the audit committee and RSM, and I received an email about them possibly being able to do it on the 8th. I know that may be too quick for us, because tomorrow, everything has to be in and posted by tomorrow for the 8th. Am I correct? Unless we add something to the agenda as good cause?
for the...
To discuss with the audit committee and RSM, the information I sent you.
Right, but that's
about
for
the-
a briefing, correct?
Yes,
Yeah,
but
I
I'm
think we
just
already have them
asking
on
you,
there.
is it on for, because they hadn't given us a date yet.
Ms. Thomas, did we try to put that on there? Do you know? Because I'm pretty sure that we already asked, or Mrs. DePree-Bruno, I think we had the discussion with moving them on as quickly as possible, which I believe it will be coming on the next one.
Well, okay, so we can talk offline about that to make sure they can make the 8th. It was between the 8th and the next one, so we'll talk about that.
Okay.
I just wanted to bring that up and make sure everyone was aware of what's going on.
Yep. So, Mr. DePree-Bruno, did you have any comments?
No, thank you.
Thank you. Okay, again, thank you all very much, and this meeting is adjourned for the day, and we'll see everybody back tomorrow.
No, I thought we have to come back at 3.
You are welcome to do so. You are welcome to do so. But as far as our next meeting will be tomorrow morning.
Gotcha.
Yes, yes. Thank you. And thank you to Communications for getting this set up. It worked beautifully. I knew I had confidence in them, and it worked. So thank you, Communications.
Before you adjourn, how fast will the written pieces and the student feedback be?
The students, as they were eating...
Should be almost instantaneous.
Yes, as they were
the way you
eating,
described it.
on their name tag, they had a QR code that they could click in and put their information, and they're faster than we are on their phones, and so they probably will have that to us rather quickly.
But the writing portion, I know that Mr. Dodig had said that there were perhaps some ELA teachers or people that in district
Okay, I'm gonna...
that are specialists. What are we going to get back? Because are we going to have the opportunity, we as board members, to evaluate content?
The plan was to provide you the scores from the individuals scoring the reading, not to provide you the actual essays themselves, if you will.
Why not?
We can. Is that just
Absolutely, I want to see it.
okay? We'll provide those copies to you also. And the scores.
So they can come, it's not going to take long to send those, because we will have those. So, yes. You'll have them by tonight.
Okay.
Thanks.
Any other questions? Yes, Ms. Giovanelli?
Will that be available for the public to
We
see
can-
your review, or how's that going to
They
work?
can put that on by tomorrow, it would be on tomorrow.
Be on the site, is that what you're
Yeah, they
saying?
can do that.
Okay, thank you.
And
We're almost adjourned.
I know, well, you should.
This is important, though, and I
thank
just
you.
thought of it before.
And I'm just interested in, before he sits down, who were the committee or whatever, judges that did the writing? Was it teachers or?
So there's one teacher, the teacher of the year from Harge Marcel Elementary, Harge Marcel, sorry, Miss Houchin, and Dr. Martin from Professional Development.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay. Is there any other questions? Everybody good? Then this meeting is adjourned. Thank you so much. Good question.